Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Ali.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Today we are having the last lecture in the series on networks and conflict with Professor Marcelo. So, Professor, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, I'm so glad I'm here, you know. I've seen new faces, so I'm going to repeat some of the things we mentioned before. Yesterday I went to the Lebanese University, public, like the one we work, no? We're from the National University of Mexico, which is very large too. And it looks like Lebanese University, no? And of course, Mexico is a big country. We have 120 million people and 30 million live abroad. In your case, the proportion is different because you have more people abroad, but it's a small country, okay? And some things are similar, you know? And what is important always is that every country is different in many senses, culturally, ethnically. And it's a very nice sentence. Geography is destiny. Geography is very important. Where are you located? What are your resources? Who are your neighbors? For example, Lebanon has been struggling because it has strong big neighbors, you know. And Mexico is very important because the first revolution of the 20th century was in Mexico. Then also it had the Russian Revolution. And the first cosmopolitan country in the world, first cosmopolitan city in the world, meaning that they have people from all over the world, was Mexico City. Because they brought Africans, Spaniards colonized Mexico. Then they brought some black people, right? People from also the Middle East. And the Spaniards have conquered Philippines. So they had people coming from China. We had a Chinatown in Mexico City. So that was the first city in the world that has people from all continents, okay? Later, we have a very strong neighbor, okay? The United States was very strong. We lost half of the territory, Texas, California, New Mexico. And the Americans have been very lucky because Mexico is very weak, also Canada. So actually have won many wars, okay? And when I'm talking about crime, I want to talk about drugs too, because it's all right. So as I mentioned in previous talks, you know, when we try to understand history, economics, we always have to have initial conditions. In mathematics, people who have studied differential equations, when they have equations that vary in time, you know, derivatives, always it's very important to have initial conditions, okay? Or opportunities. Well, in the case of Mexico, we have a strong neighbor. There's a very famous sentence I like to mention, that Mexico is so close to the United States and too far from God. Okay? So in some senses, it's good, some senses bad. Well, I'm going to talk about some facts of crime in Mexico that has to do with economics, because the drug trafficking, the narco war.
Please, can you raise your voice?
Hmm?
Can you raise your voice a little
Okay,
bit?
more like this. I can raise a voice. Okay, so or maybe get this closer. Huh? Hello. And so the traffic is mostly an economic problem or opportunity, because there is a high demand of drugs in some countries, and some countries produce it. So in a circuit, if you close the circuit, you sell and the other buys, you make money. Okay, that's the main source of income in commerce, like the Phoenicians did it. So, well, let me talk about some things and we'll discuss some of the models I mentioned before also, applications. Okay. Well, in Mexico, the war is pretty bad because they have gangs fighting amongst each other. In like, I don't know, 6 years ago, more or less, before the pandemic, it was said that Mexico had a war scenario. It was one of the worst in the world. Okay. Syria was worse, but in the case of Mexico, it was a fight between the armed forces, criminal organizations among them. Okay. And so we'll see also that it's very important, the clashes near the border, the US border. Okay, here we have more or less the rates of people dying, okay? So in the case of Mexico, many of the weapons come from the States, okay? In the United States, weapons can be sold if they're semi-automatic. If they're automatic, they are forbidden. But when you talk about semi-automatic, they shot like 60 bullets per minute. Pa, pa, pa. So they're really deadly, okay? And it's a good business. Lately, not too long ago, Mexico filed a suit against the companies that produce weapons in the US. Because many of the weapons that are bought by Americans end in Mexican hands, mostly in the criminal hands. So sometimes the criminals have better weapons than the police and the army. Can you imagine? So that's pretty bad, okay? Okay, here I have a, let me see, this the next one. All right. Okay, let's talk about people being killed. In Mexico, we have elections, presidential elections, and we have a new president every 6 years. Okay, it's working for a long time. Actually, the Mexican Revolution at the beginning of the 20th century started because we had a dictator, Porfirio Diaz, who lasted a long time, right? And the people didn't like it. So the Constitution says that we have to have a president every 6 years. Okay, and the Constitution is similar somehow to the Constitution of the United States because we have the executive power, president, legislative, and judiciary. Okay, very similar. But the Constitution of Mexico is even better because it allows for public properties, collective properties. Not everything is private. Also, the Constitution says that everything that is below the surface belongs to the nation, namely oil, gold, or minerals. So they have been changing that, but that was a good idea because in 1938, the president of that time, Lázaro Cárdenas, nationalized the oil. The oil was in the hands of the British, mostly, and American companies. So that wealth belonged to the nation. What is the nation? Well, everybody. Of course, some people get more benefits, but it got nationalized. Later, Venezuela followed the example, and more recently, even Arabia, Saudi Arabia, nationalized which company? Aramco, Arabian American company. Okay, that was built when the Saud family, wasn't so big, so they allied with the Americans. Okay, it was a good business for the Americans. At the end of the World War, I like to mention that if we plot the gross national product of the world altogether, in 1945, okay, this is 100%. So at the end of the Second World War, the US is very strong. Why? They won the war. What else? Hmm? Yes, but Soviet Union also won the war. The Soviet Union won the war. No? France was allied with Soviet Union. England. But what's the difference between the Soviet Union and the US? Hmm? No. The damage was terrible. 80% of the losses of the Germans were in the Soviet front. So the Soviet Union won the war, but they lost something like 28 million people. Okay? And the US entered the war later. No? Actually, the invasion of Normandy, which was important, was in 1944. Okay? When the Soviet Union had already advanced. No? Of course, the Americans won the war against Japan. Okay, later on, especially with bombs. But what I want to say is that here, if we plot the gross world product, all the production of the world at the end of the Second World War, 50% was American, because Japan was nearly destroyed, Europe, Soviet Union. So here, 50% of production was American. Can you imagine? And with time, the percentage has been decreasing. Okay. Now we have world powers like China, Japan was rebuilt. Now I have a question. Why do you think Japan and Germany are so powerful? Even though they lost the war. Why? They have still strong economies.
Because they manufacture the machines that make products.
Well, many countries, Mexico did, Brazil. There's another factor, not important. They're smart people everywhere, yes. Lebanese are very smart also. They have good education. Well, no. It has to do with an American plan. You can look for it. Marshall Plan. That's what the name. Marshall Plan. Marshall 1L Plan. Since the Soviet Union and the communists and the leftists were very strong and they had a good reputation because they defeated the Germans, many communist parties, socialist parties were strong all over the world, in Mexico, Brazil, France, Italy, right? And the United States sent money, that's the Plan Marshall, sent money to Japan, South Korea, and China. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's Japan, South Korea, and Western Europe, in order to stop the spread of communism, etc. Okay, so even though you lose the war, I'm going to give you a lot of money because Germany was divided. Remember, Germany was divided in Eastern Europe, Eastern Democratic Republic, and the Federal Republic. Okay, so that's something that's very important to know. Okay, so here in the war, soldiers consume drugs. Okay, so traditionally, the United States has been involved in many wars, and there are a lot of people who take drugs, even from the times of the Civil War. Remember, between North and South, people were amputated, a lot of suffering, and to cut, you remember, they gave alcohol, morphine. So in the Vietnam War, also many of the veterans came back, and they were consuming drugs. So there are many reasons to consume drugs, and the US is a very strong, important case. So here we have the period of one president. His name is Felipe Calderón, the other one, and people also were being killed. Sometimes we have some statistics. You have statistics of different groups, A, B, C, D, and we have the data of how many people in gang A killed B and how many people B killed for group A, and also civilians. Okay, that are the majority. There are some people who appear there from courses, mostly men. I don't know which group they belong. Okay, so we have statistics, from all these casualties. Okay, and as I mentioned, the weapons they used are very good weapons, mostly American. Okay, and actually they are forbidden to be used, but it's a good business. Okay, when you have business, Someone was telling me about, by the way, that here generators, electric generators, Ali, is a good business too. You know, it's a $1 billion per year, no business. Huh? So when you have a strong business, it's very very hard to stop. Okay, so we have in this case that the Mexican-US border is very complicated because there are migrants that go to Mexico to cross the border, okay, from all over the world, and there are drugs going there. And what is coming? Money, dollars, no, and weapons. So it's a fantastic combination, perfect, no? And the problem is that if that thing could be peaceful, that would be nice. But we'll see that there are a lot of clashes, okay, fights amongst different groups, okay. That's causing most of the deaths. Unlike in the US they are more organized, okay. You are older, you have experience, you are going to use California, you're American, and you're going to distribute, for example, in San Diego, these drugs. You're going to distribute the ones in Arizona, in Texas. Americans are more organized, I know, you have to understand that. And Mexicans fight, okay, among each other, okay. So, there's some analysis, you know, I want to talk about it. I will give some facts and some statistics, but it's very interesting how Colombia, in part, was destroyed in the times of Pablo Escobar. Who has seen any series of movies about Pablo Escobar? Raise your hand. Have you seen any? Yeah. Pablo Escobar, the famous Colombian patron, no?
No, I didn't watch it.
Okay, well, very interesting, no? Also, they have the narcos, no? More recently, Mexicans. Chapo Guzman was one of the leaders of Sinaloa cartel. Sinaloa is the state of Mexico, okay? So, later, it's collaboration. Yeah. So it's an ugly thing, but it's very important for the economy. Because also, for the economy, is good for Mexico, because that brings money, but destroys society. There's all corruption, you know. So from the economic point of view, there are companies and banks that clean the money. This company, laundry money. Laundry is very good, like laundry? Yes, laundry. That's the correct word, no? So that happens a lot in Mexico. Okay, so they are very powerful weapons sized by Mexican authorities. And to do statistics, you know, that we're doing, you know, right now, we have to take into account when there are fights, when when people are dying, where exactly, okay? Mexico is divided by municipalities. There are 2,500. So we have some information on where clashes occur, how many people die, how many people disappear, what else, Giovanni? On the captured weapons, no? Rocks, no? It's an interesting thing, right? So some people claim that maybe the problem is that drugs are illegal, but we'll talk about it. Okay, these things are very useful, even to attack tanks, you know, okay? They have been used in wars. And well, why people join a cartel? Lack of education, poverty, with money. Well, depends, you know. Okay, when we talk about money, I mentioned in one of the last talks that you may have a country that is very rich, okay, as an average, but you have high dispersion, lot of inequalities, then you have also poor people who will die for it, like in the US. Okay, so I'm talking about this. Remember, Marshall Plan was a plan of the Americans to increase productivity and life standards of Germany and Japan. And later on, when China became communist, also they supported Japan, okay, to try to stop the influence of the left. Okay, now let me talk about something important because we're talking about economics. There is something called the Gini index, which measures inequality. Okay, if everybody has more or less same money here, inequality is small, right? So the index goes like this. It's proportional to the sum. Let's put money, M I minus M J. We calculate the absolute value and we sum over all agents, okay? MI is the money I have, MJ you have, M1, 2, 3, right? So if the total differences are small, then G will be small. Okay, so this thing is normalized, you know, by total amount of money, the sum of all. Okay, so we have an index that tells us all the way to n, right? That means telling you how big is the inequality. So usually when you talk about distribution, you talk about the average, right? What is the per capita wealth? All the wealth divided by the number of people. Okay, the median, I don't know. But what is dispersion? Remember that the average between number 2 and number 16 is 9, okay? We have 2, 16, 9, but it's very unequal. We can also have 8 plus 10 and by 18 divided by 2 is the same, okay? So I want to show you the Gini index of countries. It's here 1 second to talk about inequality all over the world. Here it is. Can you see it? Oops. It's here. Okay, well, that's okay. Oh, what happened? I can't see it. Yeah, when I have to change. I have to change slide, no? There.
It's not working.
Let's ask Hiba. How you change your screen sharing? Maybe put here. New share. Yeah. So the Gini index measures, I repeat, inequality. Okay. Japan has an income. Let's talk about income and wealth. Income is the number of the amount of money you receive per month or per year. And wealth, well, it's accumulated. Yeah. So we'll see here that the United States, the darker the color, more unequal. So Canada is more egalitarian economically, talking about than the US. Saudi Arabia is very unequal. South Africa, all countries in South Africa are very bad. Colombia is very dark. Northern Europe is better. Okay. So people have correlated number of deaths and crime with Gini, and it's very good. The more unequal society is, there are more crimes on average. Okay, incredible. Why? Because you have poor people, you know, more poor people when it's equal. But at the same time, the rich people is more violent. For example, you have in the United States that Kentucky, Texas, rich people behave worse than rich people in New York. Having states that are very unequal, even the rich people are not very intelligent or ethically good. In Brazil also, they are used to see poverty, you know, I don't know, they're very sensitive, no? So this is interesting because we see that even Saudi Arabia, that is a rich country, has a lot of inequality, okay? You belong to the royal family, you get $1 million a year, you know, you get only 10,000, you know, so that's not nice. Okay, so let's go back, Giovanni, please. Giovanni, let's go back to the presentation. When we said that some facts saying that money also increases criminality, which is more or less obvious. No? Okay. Also, some rich people that are criminals. No? So the next one. Okay. Causes here. No? We're talking about social stuff that is important. We're talking about their childhood, their families, you know, they are less empathic, you know, you live in a very violent family, then you're used to that, you know, which is more or less obvious. Huh? Here, people were interviewed. This is Mexico. Oops. The map of Mexico. And now let's go before, after. No, that's other one. Okay, this is Mexico. This is the Yucatan Peninsula where the Mayans were, the Aztecs. Here we have Guatemala, Central America. Actually, Mexico is part of North America. And we say the Americans do this. No, sorry, I'm North American. Okay, so the Americans took the name for them, but it belongs to the other continent, right? They are North American again. But anyways, Canada, Mexico, and the United States are North America. And this is the border, okay? And many of the problems occur in the border, as I mentioned before, okay? Next, please. Okay. Cartels, criminal cartels, they are used to violence. They are not very ethical, and they are used to other activities, like human trafficking, okay? Prostitution, kidnapping. So the problem is that in Mexico, you have these organized bands. When you succeed and they don't send drugs, not to Mexico, they have to make money. So they resort to kidnapping, okay? To doing other ugly things, right? And they are good with weapons, okay? Which is bad for everybody in general. And some of the groups were ex-soldiers. The Zetas were famous because they were very violent and they had short hair and they were part of a battalion of soldiers, and they joined the drug cartels. Okay. 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 Colombia was famous because in Colombia, many people were displaced, also in Mexico. Okay? In Colombia, they have what is called paramilitaries. Okay, you have so that word. No, paramilitaries are not really soldiers, but they are doing the dirty job of the army. Okay, and they went to nice countryside. Peasants says you have to leave the country, this place in 2 days, or else I kill your children. So people leave. They take over the land. They produce drugs also. And Colombia, with 40 million people, had in many years 8 million displaced people. They went to the cities. Okay, those are internal refugees. They're very poor. A lot of problems. It's a nice country, Colombia. It's all tropical. Good land. But something like that happened in Mexico because we have also some kind of ghost towns. Okay, so this is different from Syria, from Iraq. We have the Daesh or something. This is war amongst criminal gangs. Okay, and doing it for money. Nothing political. It's a good business. Right? Next. Okay, especially in the border, cartels fight violently, and at the same time, the police has been infiltrated. Okay, so let's try to attack these guys, and they know already what they're going to do because they have people infiltrated into the army and into the police, which is very bad. In a war, when you have spies, you're lost. Okay, what is the safest country in the American continent? What do you think is the safest country where you are not kidnapped, you're not robbed? It's pretty safe. We have many countries. Canada is a possibility, not bad. Cuba, very good. Cuba. Why?
Very close to the culture, so everyone can.
Well, Haiti is very violent. And Puerto Rico.
So Haiti destroyed its own economy, so they have to resort to crime. Cuba, no, they look from inside out.
Well, Puerto Rico is very violent. Puerto Rico is richer. Puerto Rico is a state, associated state of the United States, and it's very violent. But there are weapons. Well, let me tell you, when the revolution won in Cuba, there were a lot of sabotage from Cubans, from the right wing, and Americans. They were putting bombs in hotels, destroying crops, etc. So the people in the neighborhoods organized. They were armed, watching, for possible people attacking. And they have something called CDR, Comités de Defensa Revolucionarios.
So basically their own law.
There's a law, but they are watching. If you see something strange, they say, well, who are you, you know? So, so people themselves are, you know, aware of problems, which is different when they, yeah, but they don't have weapons. They don't really have weapons. When they have weapons, it could be difficult because they can do all the things, you know, they can abuse, you know. But in general, you know, the police is the same people, which criticize because say, well, you have a police state. No, not really. People are watching them. And also, the inequality is very low. For example, if you want a luxury telephone, something really fancy, it's very expensive, right? But they subsidize education, movies, very cheap movies, theater. But if you want to buy a very fancy jacket or a nice car, it's very expensive. So the money from the fancy things is put into helping some culture. So there are many factors, no? And it's an island, as you say, you know. But it's safer, you know. I was when I'm in Cuba, and you go to some other places, you know, boy, what is this, you know? Doesn't look very nice, but it's safe, yeah. Then the black guy comes, what are you doing? I say, boy, you know, if you're in New York, you will be like this, huh? But he's Cuban. It's a black big one, but nothing happens. Eh? So, so it has to do with how people are organized, also justice. As I mentioned here, the criminals have infiltrated the organizations. Right? So in Cuba, it's the opposite. The good guys infiltrate the bad ones. They capture a gang in Cuba. What happened? Well, there was a guy who was a police and entered the group, you know, and, you know. So it's different, yeah. So when you put spies into the enemy, that's always good, yeah. Anyways, okay, let's show some data between the US, which is here, Dallas, Austin, Texas, you know, Tucson, and this is the Mexican border, okay? And well, they have to clean the army, police, because it's corrupted, you know. And here, for example, we have how many kilograms of cocaine were captured, you know, the border, you know. And well, the north of Mexico is not very populated. Okay, most of the population is lives in the south. Okay, more tropical. Here we have a lot of deserts, you know, like the Arizona desert, we continue in Sonora, you know. And here we have some names of the organizations. You know? Now the most powerful one is called Cartel de Jalisco, like Arab, no? Jalisco State, Nueva Generación, New Generation. Okay, sounds like a cocktail or like a rock and roll, you know, band, you know. And this we have here Caballeros Templarios. We have the Templar, how you translate Caballeros? Knight. Seven Knights. Funny. Because they're very Christian, you know. They think, you know. Cartel del Golfo, Gulf of Mexico, the Zetas were known because they were very, very cruel, you know. They came initially from the army. So this is interesting, you know, because here we have some cities, you know, and they fight for the control of cities. Okay. And so there's a state of lowness in Mexico in some parts. Next, Giovanni. Okay, this is very interesting. Please read this. It's funny. For me, it's kind of funny. Read this sentence. It's kind of exaggerated. So the Mexican cartels are more dangerous than China, than Russia, put together. Okay? No? Is the greatest criminal. It's not so bad anyways. But actually, also a new substance that you know, fentanyl, I'm saying in English fentanyl, no? Is a drug, chemical drug, that is very powerful, no? Fentanyl, something like this. And it's very powerful. If you have too much fentanyl, you may die. Fentanyl, no? It's cheap and it's very powerful, and you combine cocaine or whatever with this, and it's produced in many countries. Go to Mexico, right? Check that, please. Fentanyl, no? Have you heard about it? Many of the deaths of the white people is due to fentanyl because they take too much. Kaput. Okay, who knows about it? Have you heard about it? No? Check that, because well, mostly at the beginning was cannabis, marijuana, later cocaine, and this is a new drug. Okay. Also, they have other drugs, amphetamines, etc. So here, what the funny thing is also this is an American report, North American report, and when you look for in Wikipedia or anywhere, look for the criminal organizations inside the United States. Those organizations that distribute drugs. Okay, you don't find any. Those are Mexican, according to the Americans, which is not true. Here we have, by colors, but you can see very well here, we have Sinaloa, Gulf, Zetas, etc. Okay, all those areas, supposedly in the United States, are controlled by Mexicans. Not true. Okay, Mexicans are so powerful. Mexicans are not American citizens. So there is, of course, there must be some collaboration, but they are not Mexican. Okay, so we have all these terrible gangs. Well, in Colombia, used to have Mexico, and then when you reach the border, who distributes the drugs? Mexicans? No, not really. There are black, white, Latinos bands, but they don't tell you. Okay, it's interesting, no? Or what? The drug crosses the border, and then the angels distribute the drugs. No, they're organizations, but they don't tell you about it. Okay, it's interesting, no? So they put all the blame on Mexico, Colombia, etc. Okay, so well, maybe there is smaller organizations, but they exist. Next, please. Okay, now we have information on how many people are killed by each organization. Okay, so we are doing something very nice. For example, in the case of Los Zetas, we have here 3 nodes. The government of Mexico, the government could be army troops, police, state, Zetas and both, okay? So these are civilians, okay? So sometimes there is a big raid of police or an army. There's so many things, and people are mad, peasants, no? So they fight also, and some of them organized, and fight the army. Okay, so it's a mess. Okay, so we have here the network, right? Also localized by states: Veracruz, Oaxaca, Tamaulipas, etc. So we have information that we're analyzing in terms of networks. We also have seen that there are kind of fronts. You have Cartel A fighting Cartel B, and there's like a front, they're starting to grow, fight, like an army, and we can draw the limits, of the fights. So most of the fighting, most of the deaths occur at the border. Okay. Next. Okay, here we have the deaths, okay, caused by many cartels. The colors are the correspond to different, and these are the presidents, okay? Well, let me tell you a story about this president, okay? In Mexico now we have a president called Andrés Manuel López Obrador, which is center left, maybe, and he was defeated in the election by Calderon from the right wing by a margin of less than 1%. Very, very little, and there was a fraud. So people came to the street and, this is not, let's repeat the election. At least let's count the ballot, because you have all the ballots, let's count them again. So they destroyed ballots, and I think it was a fraud. So this president, what he did, claiming that he was fighting drugs, he put most soldiers in the streets. Okay? Claiming that he was doing it against the warlords. But in the really, what he was doing was trying to prevent that people, demand new elections. So here the number of deaths increased. Okay, so the number of deaths increased because the army wasn't very prepared, and the army went, for example, to this city, okay, attacked the narcos, right? And then these guys got mad. I said, well, I want the army to go to the other city you control. And then the narcos attacked this city, middle of explosion and problems, and then the army went to the other city. Okay. Then say, well, the problem is there. No? So it was a mess. And actually, the whole thing lost control. Lost control. No? Okay, here we have, as you know, networks. And the nodes are different cartels. Here, muertes means death. Okay, and we have a network in which you have links linking conflicts, clashes. Of course, the links, the strength is the number of deaths. Okay, so we have a network in the Mexican territory of different cartels fighting each other, and it's a weighted network because the number of people I killed you, not the same people as you killed me, right? It's like trade. No? The network trade in the world is how much money the US sends to China, sells to China, how much money China buys from the US, etc. No? And it's interesting, no? Because we're finding some events that are not really strange. Okay, but I don't have to talk too much time to talk about it. Okay, and the database we're using was made in Sweden. In Sweden, you know, they were reading Mexican papers and everything, and they have a very nice database. We have how long the conflict lasts, the location, etc. Okay, so with Sarah and Najim, we're doing some nice statistical work to understand what's happening. Okay, so it's like a more like a civil war, similar to civil war. No? And okay, now I mentioned at the beginning that those things don't happen in the US. Why? Why the organizations are more peaceful? Well, let me give you an example, very example of what I call the negotiators model. Okay. Some people maybe saw this in one of my talks. Who was here when I talk about consensus? Was someone here? Consensus, you were here, right? Consensus is a simple model. Let me show you, it's very easy to model mathematically how people reach consensus, okay? Let's have positions, which could be opinions, which could be ways of thinking, economics, matters in this one-dimensional scale, okay? And this could be how you qualify a government or a movie, you know? So let's have, for example, here 10 people. One, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 9, 10. Okay? And let's think, for example, politically left and right, okay? Maybe. Or how good is Alice lessons, you know? I'm giving a good grade, you know, bad grade, you know? Maybe from 0 to 200, 0 to 1, okay? So the idea is that you are going to deal with your enemy or with someone in business, but if he's in a position very far away, you want to interact with him. You're really leftist, you want to interact with rightist, okay? So let's define a tolerance length, epsilon. Okay? And you choose 2 agents. Let's put numbers, A, B, C, D, no? Okay, let's take this one and this one. And you say, well, their position, the difference, X, C minus XD is less than epsilon. This is tolerance. Let's call it tolerance. The parameter or variable of tolerance. Tolerance. If the epsilon is larger, then they will interact. Okay, you can talk to someone who's more or less similar to you. And the idea is that they will approach each other. See, this C here and this here will move 1/3 of distance. Okay, so the new position will be here. Okay, so they reach consensus. Okay, and it's better because they won't fight. Okay, so we do this thing many times. If you have a small tolerance, then it will be very difficult for them to move. But if you have high tolerance, actually you will get, for example, at the end, you will get that maybe we have here a bunch of them, a bunch of here, another here, and this one is very far away. Maybe it stays here, right? So these guys, finally, in the simulation, in the complete simulation, you can see how more or less they reached similar positions because the idea is that the approach, okay? So this also has been done in many dimensions to understand how cultures get together, from the economic point of view, cultural, etc. Okay, so the idea is that Americans, it seems to me, are better negotiators. They do it better, in a more civilized way than Mexicans because they have less people being killed in clashes. Of course, they have more people being killed in high schools, So something different. They have more weapons, something else. Okay, let's go to the next one. It's called, how it's called? Giovanni? Analysis, okay? So we're going to do at the end with Giovanni, some exercises, on networks. Go ahead. Okay, this is a group, these are the group, mata in Spanish means kill. See, Zetas were a very cruel group, and other groups organized to kill Zetas. Okay, and recently we was finding something interesting. We have that. We have it there about the General Garcia Luna. We have information. Yeah. Well, talk about it. Okay. Okay. Those are the main. Cartels. Next one, please. And let's read this. There are large number of cartels, and the violence mostly was due at the beginning to the drug trafficking to the US. Okay, as I mentioned before, here we have the links, the weighted links, and especially we have two of them that are very important. Okay, this is a circular network. See, usually in the network you put the nodes with more interactions, with more links in the middle. Yeah? This is a nice way to put it. Okay? Next. Okay, here I will show the map of Mexico that is not homogeneous. In the north, we have more deserts, we have mountains, like Lebanon, far from the coast, has mountains. So here in the belly, very important places are, it's a very important place, the north. Why do you think it's important? See, this is the Gulf of Mexico, this is the Atlantic, the Pacific, United States. Here it used to be very important. It was connected with which country? No. Eh? No. Where the drugs came from Mexico? Where? South America. Okay. Cocaine was grown in Peru, Colombia. Okay. So there were submarines, even captured here, coming from Colombia. Colombia, we have Panama, and Colombia is like Mexico, shares waters with the Pacific and Atlantic. So Brazil is a strong productor, Colombia, so they came from through here, right? And they reach the border, okay? So there are natural barriers, there are many ways of trafficking drugs. It's a big business. Next. Okay, the one with the cocktail or band music name Nueva Generación Cartel is one of the most important ones, and they fought, Zetas, and we have here the distribution by states of the fights. Next, we have a monthly report of deaths, of those two main cartels. What else? Next. Okay, now, how do you calculate population that is affected? What do you think? Well, Mexico has divided by municipios. We have 2,500 small entities, politically divided in Mexico. In the US, how is divided? And in England? States and then? Counties, okay? In the US, there are like 5,000. How many are, Giovanni? 5,000 counties or 3,000, something like that. 5,000, I think, more or less. Mexico is half, okay? So they have their own elected local presidents, okay? They have, no? And so to estimate the population that is affected, we see what clashes, and we consider that all the people living in that municipio, is small, is affected, okay? So we can calculate the strength of every cartel, we can calculate how many people are affected, you know? And it's interesting, no? For many points of view. What else? Here we have, for example, something is happening also in Lebanon, but it's different, okay? That some people leave the country, okay? In this case, we have a town called Guadalupe, see? And the population, see, has been decreasing, okay? But it's very violent, okay? There are ghost towns, and that's why also many Mexicans go to the cities or to the US, okay? In the cities, things are more safe. Why? Why safer? Usually.
Much exposure, the police is everywhere.
Okay,
City parents,
very good.
people find their own business.
Well, they're richer. Rich people can pay more protection. Rich cities, what else?
Specified region, you want all the resources.
Right. And nowadays, cameras, because it is like London or New York, there are many cameras. So you see when the car, passed, what happened. So cameras are important to record all kinds of crimes, information. So this is a case where population is going down. Next. And we have okay, number of days, events. In some events, there are clashes. People don't die. It's very rare. Sometimes they die, And well, one thing about the Muslim culture, by the way, I like, is that alcohol is forbidden, okay? In Mexico, for example, it's alcoholism, and usually when they start drinking, they are happy, boom, they finish fighting. And I've seen people, who drink a lot. They're very friendly. Some cry, some do stupid things, some are funny, or some get violent. Right? So I don't think it's a good idea to drink. Next. Okay, population, Okay, now let's pass to the alliances. Okay. So every country has their own problems, have to be analyzed differently. And there are works that show that Europe is safer because also education is higher, better in general than in the US, and they have less weapons. If you have weapons and you get mad, that's complicated. Your father comes, you are a child, you are mad, and then you shoot at your own father or your brother. It's crazy. Okay, let's move. Let me move here. No, más adelante. Dale. Go. Okay, we were analyzing in the previous there, but you can see the below. Okay, put it up a little bit. Okay, more. Okay, like that, components. Okay. Okay, J. What do we mean? J are interactions, propensities, affinities. Okay, how well you get along with people. For example, with Ali, this is my friend. Positive interaction. With others, negative. So if it's positive, it's friendship. See, a very good friend is very strong. Negative, it's an enemy. Okay, and historically, we can understand propensities based on different aspects. Let's read history. In the previous history, between countries or people, no? Gives you an idea of they are friends or not. That's a way of induction. If that guy is always nice to me, that person, I think he will be nice to me. Not always, eh? Okay. If some comes, tomorrow will come again. No? That's induction, no? From the particular to generalize. Okay. So if you have a good history between countries, okay, that's going to be important. You are friends. If you belong to different religions, could be difficult. Okay, historically, it shouldn't be that way. No? If they belong to different political regimes, they have different governments, okay, then they don't have the same goals, you know. And what it means, the last one, economical, what it means, the affinity. Eh?
Finances,
No, I'm talking about countries, the relation between two countries, or between you and him.
production, they produce, they have resources.
Production, well, I produce, but I don't interact with you. Maybe you produce, but you don't interact.
Economic relationships.
Economic relations, economic trade. Okay, you have a strong trade. Okay, if we cut that trade, that's bad. So, for convenience, you have friends. Okay, and we mentioned last time that is a case of two countries that politically they are very different, but they have good trade. Who are they? China and the US, and China and Europe too. China has become the workshop of the world, right? England in the Industrial Revolution was very important in North of Europe. They produce many things, you know, cheaply with energy. But now China is doing it very well, okay? And the standard of living is going up, okay? And they are producing many goods, improving quality and everything, okay? So that's a good thing because, in a sense, the US doesn't like countries that grow, but they cannot have a war with China because they will lose money. Okay, many of the goods you find, even here, you know, all over the world are Chinese. True or not? No? Today I want to buy a piece of luggage, you know, because it was small. I bought it, it's very big, you know, only $10. Well, it's very big, you know. It was made in China, you know. So the point is how they do it, you know, etc. So the standard of living has been raising, and it's becoming a power. It's calculated by, like in 20 years, they will how you say? What's the word in English? Will say again? Surpass the US economy. Actually, they have already surpassed the American economy in the one sense. Since products in China are cheaper, if you rescale the power of purchase, China is stronger than US. Okay? Because with a few dollars in China, you can buy many things. With $3 in China, you buy many things. With $3 in the States, not too much. Okay. So when you scale the power of buying things, right? China is getting better and better. Okay. And in the US is going down. Okay. And so this is interesting because we can apply this, you know, to people, countries, companies. You know? So the idea is to develop peacefully. When you have confrontations, that's pretty bad. What happened, for example, in my opinion, in Ukraine, that the eastern part of Ukraine was Russian mostly. They speak Russian. They have their Orthodox Russian church. They were attacked, you know, many years from the Ukrainians. You know? And Zelensky wasn't smart enough to stop all those confrontations. You know? And then Russia entered, you know, which is bad. You know? And at the same time, Europe doesn't want to buy more Russian gas, right? But where is that gas going now? The Russian gas. Hmm? China, what else? What else? Hmm? Turkey, what else? Very good. India, Iran, India, mostly. So those economies are very big, and you'll see that Western Europe is going down and down, okay, economically, especially Germany. Germany is very industrial society, and without energy, we're seeing here, you know, energy is very expensive here, you know. I mean, you know, in a sense, Lebanon looks like Cuba because you have smart people, educated people, you know. In general, I think the education level Ali is better, no, than the neighbors, no? Like Saudi Arabia. No? It's very good, you know? The schools are very good.
Not the same. We're not the same as we were before.
Well, society is going down, but I mean, many people have gone to other countries, you know, they're doing well, you know. For example, in the case of Mexico, Mexico is not very good because they're very good people, uneducated. You know? So when they go to the States or Canada, they do bad works. Eh? I mean, they are well paid, you know, in general. Of course, much better than Mexico. So, so what's saying about the education? It looks a bit like Cuba. Eh? In the case of Cuba, is difficult because for 60 years it has been blockaded by the US. Eh? And when they go to the United Nations, only the United States and Israel want to continue to blockade. And it's very hard for the economy. Because, for example, anything that has some American pieces or patents cannot be sold to Cuba. Otherwise, you know, the company will suffer. So it's difficult. So Lebanon is kind of similar, but what I see is that the energy here is quite expensive, you know? Because it's not very efficient, you know? Not have electricity. So in this guy, I'm saying that also Western Europe has suffered a lot. There's inflation due to the lack of cheap energy from Russia. So conflicts are bad. Conflicts are bad, you know, in general, I think. And okay, so remember, when you have problems, you have to be able to negotiate. Okay, without bullets. First, could be a professor, your friend, you know. Second, wars are not very good. Zelensky wasn't able to negotiate properly with Russians, and the result is that Ukraine is being destroyed. Because for every Russian that dies, how many Ukrainians are dying? You have an idea, Ali?
I don't trust the news, but I think that I don't know. The Ukrainians keep saying they're winning and they're pushing them back, and the Russians keep celebrating.
No, I'm talking about the number of people being killed.
Not sure, man.
Well, in the first days of the war, let me tell you, the Russians destroyed most of the airplanes. They attacked how you call it? The aerodromes, airports, and destroyed the Ukrainian. Yeah, so they have air superiority. And someone told me in Spanish that this war is transparente. What it means?
Transparent.
What it means? The war in Ukraine.
So people can see clearly.
That's right. That's right. Because it's flat, unlike Lebanon, and you have drones and good GPS, and everything is more or less. So I've seen, for example, some Russian movies, you know, at night, you know, there's something moving, you know, with light, infrared. When something that is hot, boom, it's a missile, finished. It was a boss, it was a tank, so, of course, someone says in a war, the first thing that is lost is the truth. Because you have propaganda from one side and the other, right? So we don't know. But I think many Ukrainians are dying, okay? Because Russians are superior. No? And also, I read, you know, I know you to tell me that they have some experience from Syria. And Hezbollah and Iranians, you know, they are good fighters because some of the fights are in the streets. You know? So if you have more experience, forget it, in war. I play tennis, you know, or chess. If you have some experience, you know, you win. No? So I know, we don't know, but you know, war is bad, you know. So actually, I think it's a war between the US and Russia in Ukrainian territory, okay?
And Zelensky was not smart enough to understand that.
No, sorry.
Important.
That's right. I know. Eh? No, he's American. Well, it's very funny because he's a good comedian. He's Jewish, but some fractions of the Ukrainian army were half Nazi, and anti-Russian. So he was stupid because he was stopped. Okay, these guys leave the army, because they were provoking the big guy, the big bird. So don't do that, So they're not very smart. And someone is telling me that I have Korean friends, and a lot of money that the US putting into Ukraine, where is it going? A lot of money that the US putting is sending to Ukraine, where is that money going?
Arms. Ammunition.
Corruption.
The US is investing in corruption.
Many people are getting rich, they send money abroad. Some people, the government, give me money, they sell weapons, to the black market. Terrible. Situation is very, very clear. Okay.
But the states are like cartels,
No, the government, the soldiers, government in Ukraine.
the form of aid, US aid. and
Yeah,
NGO.
they send aid, and lot of that money is not not used properly.
I worked in Africa for 10 years. That's how it goes.
Yeah, tell us about it. Okay, come on. Come on, stand up. Say it again.
The culture of the NGOs in the early 60s
Mhm.
was built for this purpose. Because like American money, once they burn it in America to print more, it's a shame, it's a waste.
Mhm.
So they find a way to send it to the rest of the world.
To help people, supposedly. And then,
Not just to support other sides of the war.
uh-huh.
There's always a different reason every time they do it. And they always do it with money that's supposed to be burned. So that's why
Okay.
the dollar's in charge around the world right now.
Many.
Because they threw it everywhere in like discrete ways and like everything aid oriented is in dollars. IMF is in dollars.
Mhm.
They give you credit in dollars. So
Mm.
America can print anytime they want and they can send you as much money as they want.
Well, not many, but it's inflation. But anyways, it's inflation. No,
100%. So if you measure inflation based on how much they printed 25% of the global currency in 2 years. But inflation is only up 6%.
See,
Who's getting?
everybody buys dollars. Like in,
It will take time,
Yeah,
but they print every day.
yeah, you're right. It's inflationary, but actually it should be worse, But no, people buy dollars like in Lebanon. So the Americans are getting
We're actually
benefits.
experiencing it in Lebanon. Because
Yeah.
every month they print more money, it's just growing up by
Yeah.
bits, but they're printing a lot more, it's supposed to grow by more, but
Well, that's why China and Russia want to
yes.
use other coins like yuan, ruble. Now they sign a pact between Brazil and China to trade in yuans. And the Brexit, the BRICS, have we heard about the BRICS? BRICS. Okay, there is a new bloc, that has some future. You know what BRIC means in English? Okay, BRIC. Okay, so that block, is old. It hasn't been developed, but it started with very big countries, which are called the Brazil, Russia, India, what else? China with an and no, it's South Africa. Okay, now it's interesting because South Africa is really just to make it more international because it's not so important,
Well, it's security.
Security. Well, anyways, so these countries have a lot of people. Okay, mostly China and India. And what else they have? Resources. What else? Markets. Yes, China is a big market. India. What else? Oil. Who has the oil? Who has the oil there?
Brazil has.
No, not so much. Russia. Oil and gas. Okay, Russia has gas, also oil.
They're planning to make a new currency.
What? Yeah, they're trying to make a new currency, and let me tell you, they are going to be joined by, in the future, maybe this year, next year, by Algeria, Argentina, Iran, maybe Afghanistan, and maybe Pakistan.
Effectively, all the countries that are like isolated by the United States.
Well, actually, some countries are not isolated. Actually, they don't know what to do. They are like neutral. No, not really against, because Pakistan is not against. India is not against. They say neutral. I mean, they are afraid. What is united, I think, Russia and China is what makes them together. The US. No? Giovanni, stand up, please. Show me your belly. Come on here. Yeah, stand up. I'm Russia. I'm taking care of Europe. Like a cowboy. Look at that. Okay. No, and you're taking China is taking care of the Asian. No? Okay. So the alliance is not. Also, they have, as I was talking to Ali, complementary. Russia produces oil, gas, arms, new technology, especially in weapons, and China produces what? Everything. And they are afraid of the United States. So we are seeing a new bloc emerging that is growing faster than the Americans and the Europeans. And it could be a war. So anyways, this is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And And the future of India is important, China has developed a lot. And some of these countries, I would say, there's no way you can conquer them. You can conquer Lebanon, you can conquer Mexico, but you cannot conquer China. Could you?
Me personally?
No, you. I mean, it's difficult because you have a lot of people, and you can destroy the United States. No, you cannot. Israel is a small country.
United States destroy itself.
I know, could be.
Why am I conquering? To change the culture or just change the name?
Well, that's the hope of some people, that maybe China will change the government of the United States. But anyways, talking as a civilization, you cannot destroy Israel because they have atomic weapons, right? You can destroy China. Well, China was conquered, by many countries, they have this feudal, war, it was,
They themselves, they're part of it.
yeah, but they united, so big countries are very difficult to be conquered, okay?
The only thing that changes is the regime.
Regime changes, but if it's a war, people get united, so I'm going to leave you have computers, maybe we can work a little bit, to see how networks are produced, in the case of the, okay. Well, let me finish this part saying that this model about propensities, yeah, okay. Vete okay, arriba, la de arriba más. See, for example, here we have a country, they have different regimes, you can classify in 5, ultra right, right, left. At the very right, I will put, for example, a monarchy, Morocco, or Saudi Arabia. Ultra left, maybe North Korea. Left, Cuba. So, people get along with people who think like you, and we have political, we have historical, and well, we analyze this because I think Yugoslavia. Next, one more. Okay, so talking about these different propensities or affinities, I remind you that in the case of Yugoslavia, the country was broken. Eastern Europe didn't like Yugoslavia because it was an independent country, more or less allied with Russia, and it was split into many different republics. What was the line of separation of Serbia? What was the most important thing there? Serbia, Croatia, what happened there? What's the difference between Bosnia, Herzegovina, and Serbia? What's the difference? Cultures, what else? Religion, languages. So it's delicate, when you have different cultures, you have to be very careful. Yeah, the religion is very delicate. So actually, there were terrible wars in Europe between Protestants and Catholics, and they are both Christian. So the religion has to be taken carefully because people forget that the most important thing is to treat the others well. And people tend to think that, if you're atheist, you're stupid because you're religious, or other things that the person thinks that the other is a bad person. No, it's complicated. So it's a source of possible conflict. Okay, and in the case of Yugoslavia, the split, the breakup, was helped by Western Europe. Okay, because it was a nice country, independent. Okay, so to be independent, I was talking to Ali, is very difficult. You want to be independent, and there's a word Bush will say, the foreign president of the United States, see, if you're not my friend, you are my enemy. Okay, so when this polarization is very bad. Yeah. Okay, so any questions? Any more comments? Some people, are aware of situations. You have been in Africa for how long?
Was not there anymore, about 10 years.
8 years. In which countries?
Liberia.
Liberia.
Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana. If anyone's heard of Ebola, I was there. 2014. It's fun.
And what besides corruption, what else did you learn? What?
So the biggest problem over there is they're tribal. So when we discuss culture on a person, when I discuss culture, it's not the language you speak, it's the words that you use while speaking it. So if I can reflect it on Mexico, I'm assuming Mexican cities speak differently than Mexican suburbs.
Yes.
Correct? It's the same language, but the culture kind of differs from how we speak. And the same with Liberia, where separated, you know, on a smaller scale because there are counties over there as well.
Mhm.
So there's also like the same tribe that could be from the Liberia, which looks more Liberian, and the same tribe that is from Guinea that looks more Guinean. And then the end of it is where religion comes. But initially we have an expression in Lebanon. Me and my brother over my cousin, and me and my cousin over the stranger.
Mhm.
So you start off small, and then the more you go away from your point of focal center, the more you realize people become more strange to what kind of culture you are. And we forget that nobody understands us because each one is an individual. So we unite, and then we start moving in the group. And then after that, we start claiming the group is understanding us. When the group gets to the big space, it splits without anyone noticing. And that's where like the location helps us understand why it's split in that separation. We've read a lot of research about this kind of behavior. I think that's most of my work.
And how you can avoid divisions and polarization? What are the recipes to avoid
I would think
clashes and polarization?
well, folklore, I think, is best because I think as we grow as individuals, we learn from stories.
Mhm.
So when I hear a story that I've heard that somebody's talking about that I know from before, I can automatically relate. So I think it's more of an understanding and finding the way to understand what the other person is saying. And in order to do
What do you mean folklore? What do you mean by folklore? The stories?
like expressions that we are taught when we're kids, parents teach us not necessarily don't do this, don't do that. If you do this, this will happen. And let me tell you the story, like the boy who cried wolf, for example, is a story for people not to lie. And like these kinds of similarities are used for us to be able to like connect with other people because the values are the same. And in order to understand, I think first things first, we have to grow up as individuals and then understand the community's perspective, not the other way around.
All right, very good. Yeah. And when you segregate people, it's bad. From the beginning, it's very bad because they see others as enemies.
So separation mentally is different than separation geographically.
Yeah.
If all of us are kind of like understanding what we're looking at, it becomes easier to recommunicate the separation. But most of the time, distance creates discomfort, and then it makes us start thinking of ourselves as strangers.
Yeah. Well, this experiment they did with monkeys, I don't know, chimpanzees, and they had this group of chimpanzees. They took away a baby chimpanzee and put again back, and it was the enemy.
They were rejected.
Terrible. Huh? So we have some biologically, we have some instinctive things that are tribal. You know, we have to fight.
I believe in the human being. There's a piece of everything of the world. We even share similar traits to trees and fruits and like seeds. So we have evolved observing all animals around us across the world, and most of the animals we observe have died. So most of our habits are ingrained within us. They keep changing without us noticing. The only thing we can rely on is documented history and stories.
Interesting. Yeah? Good idea. You know? Next time you have to give a talk. Okay. Liberia was formed from ex-slaves, no? The US. No?
Yes. So
Yeah.
there's above Liberia, there's a country called Sierra Leone, and Sierra Leone the capital of Sierra Leone is called Freetown. It's because when Americans decided to release the slaves, I do this because they never released. But what they did was they sent the bastard children of the owners because they used to enjoy the African women who were beautiful. So they'd hook up with them, or like, I don't know how to say that properly. But anyways, so they'd have babies from them, and then the babies would be different. So they'd send these babies
to Africa.
Because they used to do like, I'm white, you're black, and then the babies would be a mix. So that the mix is still better than black, and they would separate in school. And they would send their babies, or not the babies, their children as adults to Africa. And the idea was to colonize because the rest of the world, England had its colonies. Even
France
had
Spain.
France still gets paid from Africa. I think 20% to 30% of the French economy is just from Africa, if not more. Other than the fact that they sell most of their things to Africa. So Spanish, all Europeans had like all over the world.
Dutch, no? Dutch, Indonesia,
Dutchman, Belgium has like a part of the Congo that's
Yeah.
like the most horrendous.
Congo Belga, no? In Spanish.
So
Belgian
America had nothing though, and because America was only like 200 years old, like in the 1500s, they established it. One day decided they're going to do it. They invested in their own children, and when their children went to Africa, so that city is called Freetown because when the ships left, that's where they started like falling down. It only took them 10 to 20 years for them to start enslaving people. And
Again.
telling them.
Yeah. Well, yes. Go ahead.
Just one question. In one of the slides, you said that the visualization of the network and the links that it was done in Python. If I remember well, Mathematica, they have the Wolfram language. Mathematica, they have a very well optimized code for networks. So it draws the networks. It can calculate all the needed centrality and.
There are many ways of plotting that. Yeah. Wolfram is very good. Mathematics is very good, and easy to work on. You can work in many languages. Well, now we're going to pass to practical. People mostly are into computer science, most of them. So what I think you're right is good to learn social things, economic things, because we are too much oriented in one field. So you talk about this guy did in Africa. It's interesting.
I'm actually building a social network.
Okay, good. So let's join it. So it's important to have a horizons, complete horizon. People in the economy don't know much, do not know much about physics, and vice versa. So okay. So tell us, Giovanni. Sure.
So we have more or less like 20 more minutes, 25 minutes, and then we'll go to the lunch. I think. Free food. Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah. Today, ¿se escucha bien? Today? Yeah. Today? Okay. Today, my dear audience, I will show you how to render or plot a network using two softwares, RStudio and Gephi. I must warn you, Gephi is very friendly and easy to use. So let's start it. Gephi, you know, Gephi? No. Well, let me tell you just a little about RStudio. So R is free and open source software to statistical analysis, is very well known. So RStudio is free and open source too. IDE. An IDE is integrated development environment. And these IDEs, the purpose of these IDEs is make the user more efficiently when you are writing a code. So we have this interface of RStudio. The first screen, we have the split screen. The first screen is this place when you can write your code, like in Spider, if you know Python. This is like when you write your code. The second screen, it's the classical R terminal, when you see the outputs of your code. The third screen, it's a place where you can see your variables or your data frames. If you click it, you can see its entries by example. And the fourth screen is where you can visualize your plots, your histograms, your networks, whatever. So, and I'll talk about RStudio. Good time. Well, to plot a network, I use two data frames. One data frame with the nodes data and another data frame with links data. And this is the general structure of my data frames. Let me explain more about this. The first column of the nodes data, it's an ID column. Each node have an ID. The second column, it's the label. or the name that my nodes. I don't want to plot my network and see, I don't know, Jalisco Nueva Generación, like S03. So this is the name. Yeah. The third column, it's another feature to my network. Let me explain more about this. We have 12 numbers, all different, and I want to set one different color from each cartel. So I don't know, one is red, two is blue, and set different colors to all my nodes. But in the context of our database, for example, Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación y los Zetas are fighting in Veracruz for the control of the ports. So if I want to set the colors by the state, I can set this one and one here, and we have this state distribution. It's another feature more to visualize in my network. And the fourth column, it's the label of this feature. Well, and this is a very important column. Finally, the 5th column adds node size. In the context of our database, that node size could be deaths or events between cartels, you know? And this is for nodes. The structure of the links data, well, the first column establishes this relation from to. What it means? From where comes my link, or from what nodes come my link, and where is it going? You know? And this is important. Keep this in mind. I am working with undirected networks. If you have directed networks, this from to establish a direction. So keep this in mind. It's important if you are working with directed networks. That for the first 2 columns. The 3rd column, it's another feature like the 3rd column of the nodes dataset. And the last one, it's like node size. It adds width to my link. Yeah. This is the general structure of the data frames. So I have here some important code lines. If you don't have your computer here, no problem. This is the important code lines. Well, the most important code line is to read your data. If you cannot read your data, you're lost. So graph from data frame creates a network object using my 2 data frames, links and nodes. And in the last command, I said if it's directed or undirected. Yeah. After that, we have edge list. Edge list displays the edges list. Yeah, like this. Yeah. And the agency metrics. Well, someone told me you are very good at networks, so this this instruction shows me the agency metrics. We have more important code lines, colors. Well, if you see here, I have 12 different nodes, and right here I have 12 different colors because I want one different color of each node, as I told. And I set this connection using this instruction. I will use the media type column. The media type column is the column with the numbers. And I set the colors from this variable, and this is the connection, you know, and I save it in this variable. Well, of course, I can use the audience size, it's the deaths or the node size too, and scale it with a number. In this example, 5, but could be other number. And well, in this picture, we have the 12 colors and in the nodes. Ends, it's an instruction from iGraph package, and ends add the color of the node to my links. Okay, well, We have a lot of layouts in our studio. We can plot the nodes randomly. We can plot in a circle, on a sphere, or where it's a disk. But we have layouts more sophisticated. By example, this is Flutterman-Reinhold layouts. And it's not just a layout, it's an algorithm. It's called force-directed algorithm. Flutterman-Reinhold treats the nodes as electrically charged particles. And when are close to each other, it are repulsed. Yeah. Yeah. So we have a lot of these algorithms. By example, Flutterman-Reinhold, we have Kamada-Kawai, and other more. Yeah. And LGL, it's another for large networks. And well, more and more layouts. As grid, as a star, with this cluster, we have a lot of ways to plot our network. So that's for our studio. Let's see. Our studio. Yeah. In this example one, let me show you. Let me share here. Yeah. I have this example. Do you remember what is the degree property? It's the number of links that have one node. And the degree distribution is the probability of one node have k degree. So I have these two examples. We have that network, and you can see the degree distribution. We have one node with one link, two nodes with two links, and one node with three links. This is a probability, so it's normalized. And we have this V example where all the nodes have two links, and you can see the degree distribution. So I have this example. This is one network of 7 nodes, and I have these degree distributions. And this is the degree distribution histogram. So I will show you. I will, yeah, on our studio. It's here. Yeah. So this is the instruction to read my data frames. With this instruction, I create this network object. This is properties, is not important. I save the matrix, the adjacency matrix in this variable. You can see, yeah, you can see. I use this layout in circle, and this is my, it's working. Yeah, this is my network. Later, I want to plot the histogram of the degree distribution. So I take this matrix variable and sum the rows or the columns. If you remember, the undirected network, it's symmetrical. It's matrix, and the diagonal is 0, 2. So I can sum through the rows or columns on rows, and I get the degree. So I save this information in histo variable and plot the histogram. But it's not normalized. And the degree distribution is a probability, so must be normalized. I normalize this distribution with this instruction histonorm probability, because the probability is normally normalized to 1. And it's working. Yeah, it's working. I get the degree distribution. This is my first example about the degree distribution histogram. It's working. And test our Yeah. Let me show you. Was it time? Yeah, it's good. Okay, this is my script for plot this network about cartels fighting each others in 2017. We have two separated mini networks. Oh, you can see the bigger image. Oh, well, whatever. This is for this network. And I have another example, this example, with the different layouts we have. It's important. If we haven't time, just send me an email and I can send you all these scripts, all the information, the presentations, please. This is my email. If you want the scripts, I will send you back. This is my email. It's not showing? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I will share. Yeah. This is my email. So if you want to take a picture, if you're interested in the scripts, please send me an email.
You have a repo? There are repo.
I haven't, I can send you. And now Giovanni.
So wait, now? You can be.
Falta Giovanni. No.
That we have this, refreshments, So guys, we're into computers. Try to do things that are useful. Okay, you can work for companies, you can work for yourselves. If you want to come to Mexico, you're welcome. Because here it's far away. Our flight was very long. We took flights from Mexico City, Cancun, it's no problem, all the way to Istanbul. It's like 15 hours. And the worship, driving things in advance. And also they have scholarships. Very used to it. Then it's important because we need to complete science applied to social problems. Okay, I will show you the whole thing. Mostly some basic ideas about the concepts. Sometimes people work on mathematics and graphs and then like we. Okay, but it's important to know exactly what you want. What you do, and you may work for the police in Mexico, because it's funny when you go there and do some calculation about crime, like my iPhones, cellular, when we talk, the bad guys, to know location, we have these antennas. So you go there, they take all your things, and you go there, total secret, you know what I mean? But this is important, to use all these technologies to fight crime. And Latin America, very well, is the part of the world where the union is higher. It's not important. In fact, in Brazil, very high, in Colombia, nations have improved. But inequality is a source of crime. Lack of education, also crime. Drugs, bad. So you're welcome. He's in he hasn't invited yet. He's really, very soon. And he has very pleased soon. He's good. So this is the first time he flies abroad. It was a long way. It's a very long way from Mexico to Lebanon. And actually, that the flight takes time coming back. You know why? Direction. Remember, it's a fiction. The earth is moving. We believe the earth is round, spherical, or flat. Curved. Right. When the earth moves, it drags, the earth atmosphere. So the closer you are to the surface, it's not dragging. Anyways, since we're moving, you're flying against the wind. So it's different. Yeah. So it's a for a long flight, you know the difference. If it's short, you know, but for a long flight,
And we were twice when you're going to Lebanon. Well, that's quite in the way, where people told me, and we're so happy to be here. We're flying back tomorrow, okay? And thank you very much. And I hope you guys will go to Mexico.
Yeah, so this is Fast and Furious of GFI. I'm sorry. It's yeah, it's gone. Okay. Yeah, of course. Thank you. No.
No, it's okay. I have a question about people, no.
The question or statement?
The question is, if people, they ended up in saving others. And that means. So.
Our nature will always prevail. The goal is to overcome our nature. So the reason that there's a big difference between learning and education. Education is academics, but learning and understanding is an evolution in the human state. So that's how society is built, that's how buildings being built. So most of the people occupying the building don't necessarily think architecture, they just think home. So what's the difference between an apartment home on the ground or sleeping in the bush? Absolutely no difference.
If I may stop them for a second, if I may stop them for a second, let's just get on with the presentation. And then we will have yes.
No, yo nada más muestro esto. Y son 5 minutos, nos quedan 5 minutos.
One more day?
Yeah.
How many?
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a Fast and Furious about Gephi. You can import all your information, both data frames using this instruction import spreadsheet. And we get this these two windows. The first from the nodes, this instruction sets color. The second one size, node size. The third one, the label, the color of the label or the name of our edges, and the last one, the size of that label. We can set it by a unique color. By example, I can set all in blue. I can set it's showing, yeah. Apply, of course. Yeah, all in blue. Or by a property like, I don't know, weight, a degree of color by a property, weight, by example, and apply. I have this. And for the edges, it's the same, but it's more sparse. You can, it's hard to have this link with. You know, this is you saw this network in our studio, and now it's Gephi. Here. This is another example. I use this. I use the database of my main source. And this is how it's in. I have more examples. If you like, if you read Los Miserables, I have the relation in between personage. It's here. I import. Yeah, this is the how the people are related. I can show the names using this instruction, and in this panel I have the layouts. I can use level adjust, so the label are shown better. And well, basically this is all about Gephi. It's so easy to use, and you must try it. It's a good software, and it's open source.
Humankind, I don't know if you
Okay, let me tell you. For example, there's something that humankind torturing people is good. Training people is bad. So, no conscience is correct. We understand that we go back to torture people, to, I don't know, it's bad. No? So, human rights, vice president. So, I don't think we will go back. No? It is reversible. And secondly, science has advanced a lot. So, technology, go back to the Stone Age or the Bronze Age. So, technology, I think, and regarding human rights, for example, they used to torture people. And people go to the squares, main squares, you know, and have fun on Sunday, you know, to see how people are working, you know, torturing. So I think those things cannot happen again. So of course we have many problems. So I think that humankind are not surviving in this problem. If it comes back, the better, I know. Also, I've seen statistics about the people being killed in the Stone Age. And after, they found many fossil ruins of people being killed, you know, by others, by wars, you know, with arrows in the head, you know, destroying the brains. So like 15%, 20% of people in that epochs, those epochs, were killed by others. Okay. Also, when analyzed, for example, empires, the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, etc. So there were some sources sometimes where people were killed. But when the empire was already established, the enslaved people was, but the number of people being there went down. Okay, so okay, people there are dying, not as much as in Iraq. When they destroy Fallujah, you know, Marcelo, in Lebanon, too many people died. Okay, that's a really worrying. So we have to see statistics. So in general, I think people are more aware that we are one species that we have to treat those well, you know. Of course, we have many problems, but in some cases we have advanced. People now know that science works. Okay? And amazing works, you know. Many people have died in years before, you know. In Europe, you know, like 1/3 of people died of being crack, no? The brain, yeah? So some do something, right? And you know, people in Africa, you know, in Africa, follow, you know, example, you know, it's like what people. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor, for this valuable course, and thank you for the support, Giovanni. So we're looking forward to more lectures and to more mini courses as well. And thank you everyone for joining. And have a great rest of the day.
Let's eat.